tell you what, waking up so early for the Grand Prix this weekend is taking its toll. Us European fans, we really get it rough, don't we? Anyway, as you guys write your angry comments, hey there guys, I'm Will, welcome to FP1 and the comedy review, as round 3 of the Red Bull World Championship saw the sport head down under for the Australian Grand Prix. With the prospect of rain, Stroll and Michael Masi in the air, we were likely in store for a drama-filled weekend, so let's not waste any more time and get into the comedy review. For the Australian Grand Prix. First things first, it's time for...
What the hell is going on here? Oh, mamma mia.
And in Australia, quite a lot. Firstly, Daniel Ricciardo was back. Unfortunately, it was only in his role as test driver and social media slave, but I do love how Red Bull had to actually clarify this on Twitter prior to the weekend. The Milton Keynes PR department were firing on all cylinders though, managing to strike a deal with McLaren to allow Ricciardo time in their new car in promotional footage ahead of the Grand Prix. Daniel, of course, wasn't the only Aussie returning to the F1 paddock this weekend, as ex-race director Michael Masi also decided to make an appearance, though for some reason didn't quite garner as much positive reception from the fans. In other news, Jos Verstappen has won Father of the Year, and McLaren made the decision to reshuffle its technical department, going on to hire engineers from Ferrari like that's some sort of improvement. New signing Oscar Piastri struggled to make an impression over the course of practice. His teammate Lando Norris was quicker, though his experimental line through turn 1 won't go down well with the race stewards. Well, actually, that depends on the whereabouts of Masi, doesn't it? AlphaTauri were having a better weekend. In fact, you could go as far as to say they were flying. Literally. Their bigger sister Red Bull wasn't having the smoothest Friday either, Verstappen dipping a wheel into the gravel a number of times and even going for a spin in FP1, though still topped the session. And they say we still have a championship fight. Mistakes were aplenty in Albert Park, though the first red flag of the weekend wasn't due to an accident at all. The GPS systems failing in FP1, meaning no one knew where Lance Stroll was on the circuit. And maybe you could extend that warning to Sergio Perez as well. Last time out's race winner feeling the presence of Daniel Ricciardo this weekend as he began to drive like him once Saturday rolled around. The Mexican was struggling to keep his car on the black stuff, which as it turned out was just him preparing for qualifying. Car issues, red flags and Nico Hülkenberg would also impede Checo, whose championship challenge proceeded to last all of one race when he beached his Red Bull in the gravel during his first lap in Q1. On the bright side, we'll still have some entertainment now as Max proceeds to drive off into the distance on Sunday. Logan Sargent was another to struggle in qualifying as he made us wonder if Latifi had returned with his spin at the final corner. Piastri and the two Alfa Romeos would join him and Perez in the Q1 drop zone as we moved into Q2 and I fell asleep. So bear with me as I make sense of the highlights for a little bit. For the first time in 2023, people were reminded that AlphaTauri still showed up to the races as they both progressed into the second part of quali, though failed to make it much further than that. Esteban Ocon was the other surprise elimination after looking pacey all weekend, with K-Mag and Norris completing the bottom 5. That put Alex Albon and Nico Hülkenberg into the top 10 shootout, and while both initially received praise, the latter would throw that in the bin when he triggered #TeamLH at the end of the session, which I'm sure will eventually end up on an episode of Dumb Ways to Die. Merc fans were particularly put off by Hulk's antics, given the W14 actually appeared to have pace in Australia, eventually qualifying second and third behind, well, you know who. To be fair, after the first runs, it looked like Red Bull may well have been vulnerable. Verstappen only cleared by 9,000ths of a second and complaining of engine issues, which I'm starting to think is his version of Bono my tyres are dead. Max's pace returned for his final lap, clearing the Mercedes by a quarter of the second heading into Sunday. We can't move on yet, however, as this video isn't long enough yet for ads, and it must be a record for the length of time I've gone on in one without making a joke about Ferrari. Not that I need to, as they were once again writing their own material during the qualifying hour. The Scuderia found themselves stuck in 5th and 7th come the end of Q3, their weather forecast predicting imminent rain, which ended up being about as accurate as Lewis Hamilton's tax returns. And while we wonder how this can get any worse on Sunday, I've got to put in my typical plea of dropping the video a like and subscribing if you're enjoying the video so far. Now, let's finally get into the race. The lights would go out then, and Verstappen would struggle to get away, losing out to both the Mercedes, Twitter going silent as all of their users passed out on the spot. Further back, Charles Leclerc was looking to improve on a poor quali effort, which was curtailed when he encountered the abominable force of Lance Stroll. With the Ferrari beached and the safety car out, we would all calm down a little. But not for long, as Alex Albon decided it was his turn to become Nicholas Latifi for the afternoon. Russell and Sainz took this opportunity to gamble on fresh rubber, a decision which seemed inspired, until it wasn't. With the red flag being brought out for sand, all of a sudden every car got a free pit stop. I'm sure it won't shock you that this didn't make George and Carlos particularly happy, and I guess it's time for this abomination to make a return as well. Conveniently, I don't even have to change Massey's face in this edit either. Mercedes at least still had one car in the lead, and thankfully it turned out to be the right one. Russell's Black Arrow showing off the team's new Need for Speed sponsorship when it started spitting fire. Anyway, I say they had one car in the lead, we've got to remember that Max Verstappen is now in second, and that likely won't last very long. Sure enough, as soon as DRS became available, Max turned on the nitrous and blasted past his old rival on the straight, which was maybe for the best given what happens every time they meet at an apex. After this, it was time to fall asleep. Everyone had pitted and Verstappen might as well be on his flight home already. All we had to entertain us was Perez every now and then sailing past a back marker, yet still somehow not making it any closer to the front. The race was getting so boring that even Max Verstappen seemed to fall asleep at one stage, going straight on at the final corner and giving everyone watching live just that little last bit of false hope. Or was it? Because Kevin Magnussen was in the race as well. Until he wasn't anymore. The Haas driver clipped the wall on the exit of turn 2 and fired debris all over the circuit. Guess what it's time for again? All of a sudden, we'd woken up. K-Mag's incident left us with Verstappen's dominant lead in tatters, Hamilton feisty in second, and the 2-lap sprint to the finish. Now I wonder what could go wrong here. 5 lights would come on, 5 lights would go out, and so did half of the rest of the grid. Carlos Sainz proved why you should never meet your heroes, punting Alonso into turn 1, kicking off a chain reaction which saw the Alpines blow each other up, Sargent penetrate De Vries, and Stroll do Stroll things because why not, I guess. Here we go again. Why do you like this? I don't understand it. Anyway, speaking of not understanding things, with no laps left on the timing tower, the boffins at the FIA were busy trying to work out exactly what was going on. Since the cars hadn't made it through one sector, the finishing order was being called into question. And before we get into this, let's just thank the Lord that Hamilton hadn't managed to get into the lead, or Hulk hadn't moved any higher than 4th. After about half an hour of pointless discussion, the order was reset to before the Demolition Derby, with Carlos Sainz therefore receiving a 5-second penalty for an incident that in the FIA's eyes never actually happened. I'm past the point of surprise now. Max Verstappen then would take another victory ahead of Hamilton and a reinstated Alonso, with Sainz dropping to the back of the pack, though on the bright side he now won't be castrated by the Alonso stance. Oh, and Hulk broke down after the line. Wait, does this mean another... Overall then, it was for sure an interesting race, though I was really struggling to stay awake in the middle of it. I'm sure the fallout of this one will continue over the coming days, and we still wait to see if Gasly picks up a race ban for wiping out Ocon at the end there. I also worry what this crash will do to this beautiful relationship Alpine claims they have. If you ended up enjoying the comedy review though, be sure to drop it a like and get subscribed. I won't lie, I'm weighing up the idea of covering the F2 and F3 from this weekend in separate videos. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss those. Before I go, I've got to say a big thank you to all of my patrons and channel members, and if you want to help further support me and the channel, all the links you need are down in the description below. But for now, that's all from me, so I'll see you soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.